like the Druid's chances better because traditionally, ever since Flick Skyshiv has left the Rogue standard card pool, they just don't have that super easy one-card solution to boards as wide as this. And we have Glory on the coin with Gibberling and Lightning Bloom, and this could get out of control really quickly, Dark.
Yeah, it could indeed. In terms of the cards that have left Rogue, though, I just felt a slight pang, not at the lack of Flick, but just that I don't have to say, oh, and of course you can get a massive Edwin that just wins the game on the spot. Like, I feel like it's just a reflex, a muscle that I built up over the years to say that in any matchup. But yeah, specifically here, I think that Mankrik, again, it feeds into that first part of the game plan that I was talking about. Usually on turn 3, you're still not under so much pressure. You should be able to proactively play Mankrik to try and trade, and of course, hope for a miracle Mankrik off the top in the next couple of turns. But the other side, this is looking very, very juicy for Glory, especially with the pickup of Power of the Wild. He could go in on this turn.
He could. And I was going to say the Mulligan decision was pretty interesting because obviously the 3 cards on the right had a lot of synergy with Gibberling. The Glowfly, not so much, but Glory was deciding to keep that just in case the first Gibberling board didn't come up with enough synergy. But immediately picking up Power of the Wild to go along with this means that even if blitzchung is able to remove a couple of these minions, he's taking too much damage in the meantime while waiting for a way to deal with the rest of the 2/2s. It's so powerful.
Brutally strong turn 1. The absolute last thing that you want to see as a Miracle Rogue in this situation. And so it's going to be all hands on deck to try and wrestle this back. I guess the Octobot that can't be killed off immediately is a very powerful follow-up with the field contact. If you can find Brain Freeze or a Prize Plunderer with a Shadow Step, definitely salvageable. But even just the follow-up of Landscaping for Glory is so strong.
It is. And I have to note from blitzchung, well, funny that he was still jamming even in a bad situation, that it's kind of tempting for some players to go Dagger there on turn 2 just to kill off that one Gibberling that still has Spell Burst. But because Glory is overloaded, it's very unlikely he can actually take any relevant usage of that Spell Burst. So I like blitzchung going for the Octobot, trying to get the discounts because he really needs some miracles off the top to make this work. That being said, he didn't get anything super cheap to go along with the field contact. The only immediate proc he can get on it immediately returns it to his hand. So this could just be like Dagger plus 10 move.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's leading towards Cult Neophyte again. If it stops the Fungal Fortunes, there's a card on the left-hand side. It's a pretty decent read, I think, to say that is exactly Fungal Fortunes, because, again, like you said, Glowfly is a bit of a weird keep with this hand, so I would have a slightly stronger read on that, and this can massively disrupt their turn if it is that. He, of course, it's the Landscaping instead, so he didn't get the card I think he was thinking about, but it still has a big effect here from the Neophyte.
Yeah, absolutely huge. And again, while Glory can technically preserve his 1/1 Gibberling here, the fact that blitzchung played the Cult Neophyte means that it's very expensive for Glory to take advantage of the Spell Burst, and blitzchung nets more tempo. Next turn, he's able to go for the Dagger to clear that off and develop the Mankrik. So a very smart play from blitzchung here, and I expect just a hero power from Glory.
Do you expect hero power and sacrifice the Gibberling alongside the hero power to keep more attack on board? Sacrifice the spell burst one, sorry.
It was worth thinking about for sure, but because what he would get to keep in that situation is just a 2/1 anyway, same amount of health and only 1 more attack. Against Rogue, it's all the same to a Dagger, so I prefer Glory maybe just trying to force blitzchung onto using the 2 mana to deal with the 1/1 spell burst, but blitzchung is not perfectly happy to do this because his health total is starting to look a bit precarious, but still, I think it's worth it given that Glory doesn't have that many cards to work with.
Agreed. I mean, I think there are many traps that you could have fallen into over the course of this game for blitzchung, and he's fallen for none of them. Like you said, not playing the Octobot on 2, not playing the Neophyte on 3, playing Secret Passage here on turn 4, I think would have been too early. Playing the Mankrik plus the Dagger is just better than the vast majority of things he can find anyway, so you save that to try and draw more cards with the contact. It's just very clean play.
Indeed. And for Glory, there were 2 options this turn, either Solar plus Landscaping or the Glowfly. Starting with Glowfly means that, of course, he nets 1 less 2/2 for this turn, but the Glowfly, the Landscaping Solar combo is still available next turn as refill if he needs it, and looks like he will, because blitzchung is about to pop off so hard with this turn. A single Shadow Step might just lock out the game entirely.
Yeah, he is, of course, now... He's honestly considering Secret Passage here, as crazy as it seems, because you really want to kill off every minion the turn before the Arbor up. And so looking for, as you said, Shadow Step, second Brain Freeze, all of that was very valuable. But in the end, just settling on the Wand Thief is, of course, the more standard line.
Even if there were just the singular Arbor up here, I don't think he was in all too bad of a position. And as it happens for Glory, his best board refill, because I believe he has to trade into the Field Contact and Mankrik, is to just play 4 more 2/2s, which is relatively easy for blitzchung to deal with. 2 of them already dead on board, plus the dagger, and then he can just play Jandice and be very happy about his position. The only precarious thing, once again, is his health total.
Oh man, I gotta say to you, it's just, again, every time I see it, the gibbling starts just seem kind of underwhelming. When you compare it to the likes of an early Glowfly, I appreciate that it's correct to do, and I'm just basing this purely off of emotion. This is not like good advice, but every time I've seen it, it's just looks so much worse.
Why is everything about Token Druid centered on emotion? This makes everyone irrational, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's fair for Glory to say if blitzchung doesn't have an Octobot start in that spot, the Glowflies just kind of get there over a couple of turns. But blitzchung has had the goods. Glory has held on to Solar Eclipse and Landscaping just so he could eke out more resources from the Glowfly Swarm. But he's just fallen behind turn after turn in terms of board pressure because blitzchung had the perfect follow-up. And now Glory is cashing in all the 2/2s he can, just trying to go for a counter-lethal. He's very close, but blitzchung has tons of resources to deal with this.
He does. That pickup of Prize Plunder is a big, big deal, of course, as is the counterspell, actually, for that matter, too. If it weren't for that, maybe we could be looking at just discovering the Feral Rage or Moon-Touched Amulet for lethal. But I think now even that is out of the question.
Yeah. blitzchung now picks up a way to... Rune Orb this turn doesn't actually let him clear any more additional treants, but it gives him a way to start looking for counter-lethal race. It's just like if he picks up any more damage from that, potentially card draw, it's huge because every turn he gives Glory to potentially go for a Fungal Fortunes into the second Nature Studies and discover something important is the one way that blitzchung can lose from this point because he's seen double Glowfly.
Yeah, exactly. And now I think we are seeing very much the beginning of the end. Blitzchung is nowhere near running out of value thanks to the Secret Passage. And Glory has very few draws to even have a chance now that double Glowfly has already been played. The refill isn't really there. I guess the one kind of talking point left was for Glory to even go for the play. Okay, yeah, there we go. To even go for the play of Solar Eclipse plus the Treants on that previous turn. It did mean that he couldn't go for Solar plus Arbor up the turn after. I wonder if that was maybe too slow to pull it back in the game, but by going for like a decent turn, the turn prior, it stopped his ability to go for insane Solar Eclipse turns shortly after.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of optimize from Glory. We saw him go for Glowfly back-to-back turns for 3 minions, where he could have gone for 2 spells to get 4 minions instead, but then the Glowflies in hand are pretty awful by that point. And he was just kind of hoping that after blitzchung went all in to clear off his first board that there was no good refill, but it so happened that blitzchung had the Field Contact to follow up, and there's just no way that Glory was able to counter that. And even if he had gone for the 4 2/2s in one turn, I think blitzchung was still in a position where he could beat it. And that is going to be the Rogue taking the matchup that I was saying is pretty Druid favorable.
Yeah, imagine blitzchung just saying, "You dare come into my house, my forest, and try to kill me with trees? Disgusting. Get out of here." It's not going to happen, as he's even able to take the win with the Rogue against the Druid. He just knows how to use the deck and how to take the deck apart. And so now that means that that Glory has to, of course, find a counter queue, given that this is last hero standing, to the Rogue. And what are you thinking, G? Is it going to be the OTK Demon Hunter or the elusive Control Warrior that we know surprisingly little about, despite it being a bit of a terror on ladder now?
Yeah, just based off of looking at the rest of blitzchung's decks, because with LHS you kind of have to also consider not just the immediate deck you're beating, but what can your opponent then counter queue into you. if you take that matchup. And between the Warrior and the Demon Hunter, I think both are favorable matchups against the Miracle Rogue, but we do see that blitzchung has his own OTK Demon Hunter left, which I would imagine is not something that the Control Warrior wants to run into. No matter how much armor they stack, if the OTK Demon Hunter has enough time, they can get well above 24 into the realms of 48 and 72. And so because of that, I think it's better for Glory to go for OTK Demon Hunter here.
That makes sense. I think also I would argue that OTK Demon Hunter is a better matchup against Rogue than the Warrior is. Having played a fair bit of Miracle Rogue versus Warrior, again, I played against the average ladder Control Warrior, not the world champion Glory, so take my word for it. And I am, of course, the best Rogue player in the world, so I'm naturally favored against anything. But I feel like the armor gain capabilities of Warrior, if you don't give them insane Rancors to gain like, 12 armor in a turn, you very often can just burst them down. If you're greedy with your Alexstrasza 10-woo combo, and just throughout the course of the game, shadow step your 10-woo back or discount both of them with an Octobot, you can very easily deal the 24 burst damage in a turn that you need to kill them off, in addition to your wicked stabs after going for these tempo starts.
Yes, it does seem that Glory has chosen Control Warrior first, though, which I think presents that he has a specific opinion on the favorability of OTK Demon Hunter versus Token Druid, because the whole interaction we have here is that because blitzchung has gotten the first win, he has the ability to time when the Token Druid needs to be played. Obviously, if he had to counter queue it into OTK Demon Hunter, if he thinks that's a favorable, then Glory could potentially have the Warrior to face up into that. And there's just so many different iterations of how you can approach it, but by starting with the Control Warrior here, Glory is saying that he's okay with this taking the win here, hopefully, and then potentially losing to OTK Demon Hunter and then ending up on the mirror.
Very, very weapon-heavy start for Glory, which is an interesting point about this build of the Warrior. Contrary to Wama's Control Warrior that I think we saw yesterday in the European region, this runs a lot of weapons and 2 Corsair caches, which I do like. I think it's a very clever inclusion in the list to give you a bit of extra card draw and a bit of consistency in your draw. But it does mean that you can get hands like this where you're just massively overloaded on weapons.
Yeah, he does have 3 weapons run in the deck, the 2 Outriders, Axes, and the Bulwark, and that means now that all 3 are in the hand, and so the second Corsair cache is a dead card later on. But the important part is that, well, from Glory's perspective, he potentially had the ability to coin out the Outriders Axe and take down the Octobot in one swing, but blitzchung knows that's a possibility, so he's gonna go ahead and cash in on the discount right now, even though his hand is still very much looking for a field contact to make it really pop.
Yeah, and Glory absolutely going to start milking the value from this Outrider's Axe now. It's not the end of the world from blitzchung, because you can feel like if they go for Outrider's Axe at the start of the game, oh, nothing sticks. My entire deck does nothing because they just kill it all. But if every one of your minions is dealing their attack damage to the hero even once, that's already not terrible. You're getting through a lot of damage then. You're going to be able to capitalize on that very, very nicely.
Indeed, and for blitzchung, looking for a miracle off of the secret passage, even just the swindle would have been pretty okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you had something to do in the next turns, but the Kazakus is absolutely premium. Gets to curve into a 5-drop golem now, and this is exactly the type of start that Rogue needs to beat the Warrior. Traditionally, Control Warrior has just struggled against mid-range decks, and what do you know, curving 4 into 5 is the most mid-rangey thing you can do.
It is. Even gets, I would argue, the ideal golem. Like against Warrior, summon a copy can be good, but you're all of a sudden very vulnerable to like not Rampage. What's the name of the card? The 3-mana Whirlwind.
Bladestorm, yeah.
Bladestorm, yes. I'm getting my Warrior cards confused. Apologies. They can just deal with it very, very easily then. But with draw cards, you are guaranteed some battle cry value at the very least.
Yeah. Glory had some interesting choices off the Scorpid there. All of them cards that have decent synergy with his deck. Only Barricade, if you're a fan of it, like Orange, I suppose, goes for the Rancor for a bit more potential armor gain later. There's a lot of boards that Rogue builds that are shaped to be weak against Rancor, particularly the field contact turns. But it is really the Golem that is the sticking point for Glory right now. He is able to ping off the Divine Shield, though, and now he can simply Shield Slam that away.
Yeah, kind of annoying on the way that things hit there. I really wanted to just get a hit on the Prize Plunderer, because again, even if he just has to tank 2 more damage by swinging into it, it stacks up. This Alexstrasza in hand, being able to go Alexstrasza step on turn 8, already that's a lot of damage that Glory is going to have to contend with. So I am definitely agreeing that the Shield Slam looks pretty good to me.
Yeah. It's a very big deal. Glory just going for the ideal order because I don't think there's any card he would rather play than the Shield Slam, but he definitely still has the armor to go for it in this order anyway. He was hoping that, yes, the Prize Plunder would die, which is the average outcome, and then even if it's one hit on the Golem, then he can just armor up Shield Slam. But the Jandis on curve to follow up Kazakus with the Shadow Step to go along with it is absolutely backbreaking. Glory, no brawl in sight.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that the Jandis should be stepped here. Even though I was saying you have the Alexstrasza step stuff, that was like not the ideal use of it, and you'd rather get more tempo. Having said all this, though, Glory does now start to have the ability to go for his armor gaining plays. Rancor starts to look pretty good on this turn. Just picked up an armor vendor. He is, he's nowhere near dying still. Blitzchung is going to need more than what he has in hand right now to win the game.
Right. And the order of Rancor versus Swing first is pretty interesting because, again, you can take a draw if you start with Rancor. However, it is, I think, more pertinent for Glory at the moment to prioritize gaining HP. To the point where he is not going to swing at all. He says he's okay with leaving the 3-5 on the board, saving the Rancor, and using it for the second Jandis potentially, which is still going to spawn minimum 2 minions that die to Rancor.
Yeah, I think this is actually pretty reasonable, right? You leave a minion, again, as you said, that is guaranteed to die to the Rancor, and it's just a good card at all points in the matchup, whether it's Jandis or a bunch of weenies that you're going to be seeing later on the field contact turn. It's just, I think, good disciplined play from Glory. I think I was maybe a little bit too aggressive to get rid of it.
And he's not 100% certain that the Firework is the Jandis illusion, but you can be reasonably certain that blitzchung put the full health on the 5-5 instead. Glory did use a Shield Slam to deal with the 5-5, and now he is going to make the read that once again it's the less threatening minion that had the illusion on it. Very reasonable indeed. I wonder if blitzchung had any measure of room for some mind games there, but maybe it's a little bit too fancy.
Yeah, I think if they just go for if they just play Rancor or Whirlwind there, you'd rather just have more attack on board. So I do like the way he's going about it. Are we ever just jamming Alex on this turn?
It's definitely a possibility. He's seen one Shield Slam, but the problem is always Blade Storm, of course, which is either single target removal or AoE. So blitzchung gonna hold back for a bit. Because the Alex is on 8 mana, there's still some potential to finagle a Tenwu combo a bit later on, although the Tenwu is a bit early now.
Okay, Swindle, a huge card to pick up at the end for 0 mana, thanks to the clever timing from Glory.
So now he has the potential to go Tenwu step right now.
Yes.
And so the Tenwu costs 0, and he can play Alex next turn. That's only 16 though, not quite enough if he assumes that this board is getting dealt with. But not gonna lie, I was interested in maybe having that in hand as opposed to Occult Neophyte.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, even as opposed to an Octobot instead, I don't think the Octobot is doing that much here, to be perfectly honest. Reducing this hand doesn't feel especially important. Yeah, it was a close one because he's still gonna get the still gonna get Tenwu at some point. But if it's 5 turns away now, maybe a little less, 4 turns away, it's still a big deal because they can gain a lot of armor in that time.
And for Glory, this is a very interesting crossroads because he could go for the full defensive play of Rancor plus Swing into Bulwark. Even overriding the weapon here, I think, is not a very big deal. He's just concerned about his HP. But he also, of course, really wants to get down one of these Troublemakers and make it such that he doesn't have to spend his entire turn removing and maybe reverse the pressure on blitzchung. The Troublemaker 3/3s have plenty of good targets this turn, but is it maybe a little bit too risky at the risk of having Alex come down next turn? From Glory's perspective, one of the discounted cards from blitzchung's hand could be Alex indeed.
Yeah, it looks like he's going for the swing first. I agree, I would take the 2 armor over a card here because he just has pretty much everything you could need at this point. It's just about surviving that burn, which is going to start coming in thick and fast. A 7 mana Alexstrasza is a very, very scary proposition.
Are you going to choose to fit in the hero power instead of the Bulwark, which is still pretty fine? I don't think we're in a territory yet where blitzchung only has Alex and Dagger as sources of burn. Wow, these are very interesting options, the left and the middle.
Potion is just short of being able to be used with Alex, but I mean, I'm starting to think about the bigger plays. Like, you could do it with Tenwu later on. You could obviously just do it with the Wand Thief right now. But the Ruined Orb in the end, picking up another Wicked Stab. Yeah, okay, that equals a lot more damage in the long run.
Yeah, upgrading next turn. And so between that and Alex, he already has 14 bursts from hand. Not quite enough to get there against Glory in the immediate, but he has to be wary. And Glory has used, I guess, 2 Rancors and still has 2 more. Oh my goodness. The armor never stops.
Yeah, absolutely. The play here, you're just gaining armor, armor, armor at all costs. And I do think specifically talking about the Bulwark again, I really like that he is saving it. I think until you are down to like the point where you're even lower than this, because I think you're not expecting 24 burst at this point. But now he might want to start thinking about playing it because this is scary.
Certainly is. Unfortunately for blitzchung, he can only play 2 Alexes in 1 turn maximum. And so the Shadow Step ends up in a very awkward situation, right?
You just step the Alex, right?
Don't you want an 8/8 on board, though?
I don't think so. I think I'd rather have another Pyroblast in hand. Like, there has to be a way for him to kill it, right? Even just swing and Blade Storm.
Sure. It's a little bit short of dealing the lethal is the problem, even with the Wicked Stab.
It's true.
And so I felt like his out there was to have the Alex stick and go face and then Shadow Step at the next turn. It's very optimistic, but all Glory really has to do here is just remove a minion and gain armor, and that's what the deck kind of does for Warrior.
I mean, at the same time, though, there are still 2 Wicked Stabs and a Shadow Step in the deck, though, right? Like, there's so much damage packed into the remainder of the deck now.
All right. Definitely close. blitzchung agrees with you, and he is turboing out the card draw. Mancrick's Wife coming out immediately. Very, very likely for that to happen because blitzchung is close to the bottom of his deck. Train does not stop with the Wand Thief, but blitzchung is choosing to fit in the hero power as well now because he is sitting on 20 damage in hand over 2 turns.
It's absolutely absurd, but Glory is not out of tricks quite yet. Obviously, with a trade into the big Mancrick and a Rancor, he can get another huge burst of armor gain there, and even shuffle Kargath Prime into his deck as well if he wanted to, by like bumping it into the other Mancrick first and gaining yet more armor.
Could get 2 net more armor by doing that, but perhaps having the Kargath as a 4/1 remain on board is a bit better in that situation.
That's fair.
He does just have to think about breakpoints because we know about this 20. Glory knows about this 20. And he is currently at 19. If he Rancors and kills 4 minions, he goes up to 27. That's pretty safe. So I feel like the ending with the Kargath on board is perhaps a little bit better. So Maiden into 3/7, Rancor, Kargath into the 3/4, and then hero power.
Oh, Kargath is a 6/5 anyway. Okay, that does change things because then you can go for it this way. Sure.
I mean, he still ends up with nothing on board, which is like the same as the other player, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Which gets him 2 immediate more armor, except he's not sticking a 6/2.
Yeah, and I think I like it. I would rather have the draw for Kargath Prime immediately. He only has 8 cards left in the deck now.
blitzchung looking for a miracle, something like Mask of Cthulhu, but does not find any burn. Gonna take the Oasis ally instead and hope that this board of tiny minions can somehow get there, but I'm not seeing it, Derek.
Got 18, 26, 32. Like, it can still get there. I think it's going to be really, really tight, though.
Are you going to go ahead and use his last charge to deal with Vanessa? Because he knows that blitzchung from this point could just dagger him down to take that charge anyway. I think it's fine. And he still has this second answer for the Oasis ally minion. But now the Alex as a body becomes, I guess, not a problem because there is Barov.
Yeah, that will always just be dealt with, I feel like.
Glory at a healthy 24, still out of range of triple Wicked Stab for the very next turn. I don't think blitzchung can get there.
Yeah, I think you're right. What is it? Orc Merchant is the last card as well. I was thinking that was a Shadow Step, but yeah, it's just a little bit too much armor.
blitzchung knows it. He's going to throw it down, and that means that the Control Warrior takes a very quick win against Miracle Rogue. And it's so funny how fast that happened because the Miracle Rogue hit pretty much the bottom of their deck. Just goes to show how powerful Rancor can be in the current meta.
Yeah, discovering another one, absolutely huge. And I think blitzchung did pretty much everything correct there that he was supposed to, even to an extent using, not going for the play that we were suggesting of shadow stepping the Tenwu, because the problem with that is that you're effectively deleting 8 damage from your hand. You of course get to do it sooner because you can immediately then go Alexstrasza Tenwu, but you don't get another shadow step to be played on the Alex, and so he did create more damage, took a slightly greedier line, but it still, in the end, was not enough to get over the finish line. So I definitely don't begrudge him for that line, and I think it was correct in the end.
It's tough to say. I think both of them have very strong arguments because even though more total damage over time is strong, there's something to be said for getting more damage more quickly because Glory had to eventually draw into some of those additional removal pieces, right? And maybe an Alex a couple turns earlier could have changed something. There's definitely risk and reward to both lines. Yeah. And I think the more we get to see Control Warrior become popular, whether it's in LHS or just in general formats, because I think the deck definitely has a place in this meta, I think we're going to see a lot more nuance appear in this particular matchup as well. Can't wait to see the iterations.
I agree, and I think it's going to be a learning curve for me because I've been a bit of a Debbie Downer on Control Warrior overall recently, but I think, again, it is just because of the fact that I've been seeing it played on ladder, and people are still getting to grips with the deck that I'm playing against, whereas Glory, one of the best players that we have in Asia-Pacific, nay, the world, being our current world champion, is clearly going to play it very well. Timing that Bulwark of Azzinoth, I think, very well is the key part of that matchup, and could very possibly be the key part of this matchup, Gia, because I am looking at an OTK Demon Hunter from blitzchung without an acidic Swampooze, which is a very, very big tech decision in the difference between blitzchung's OTK Demon Hunter and the Japanese player's OTK Demon Hunter.
And you can clearly see that the Japanese players were playing the Ooze because they had Control Warrior on their radar. They were all bringing it as a group, and they knew that the way to potentially lock out that huge Il'gynoth burst turn is to have the the Bulwark of Azzinoth in place. Yeah. And even though on paper this matchup is, you'd think, OTK Demon Hunter favored, that one card similar to the Weapon Rogue matchup can turn things on its head. And notably, I do believe that Glory was able to take a win over OTK Demon Hunter earlier this week with the Control Warrior. Or sorry, that was Alutemu reverse swept blitzchung with the Control Warrior, including beating the OTK DH.
Yeah, it's very far from an unwinnable matchup. We tested this one quite a lot in testing with me on the Control Warrior and Sottle on the OTK Demon Hunter. And, we came to the conclusion, I think, that, yeah, if Demon Hunter doesn't... Demon Hunter usually just wins. They have to get pretty unlucky to not win. I think I was like 5-4 at the end of testing, though, as Warrior. I actually came away with a positive win rate in the matchup. Maybe I'm skewing the numbers slightly. But it felt like it's definitely winnable, and that was even when there's an Ooze in the Demon Hunters lineup. This iteration, there is obviously no Ooze, so there's even more of a win condition as the Warrior. Because the other thing that is worth bearing in mind is not just the Bulwark of Azzinoth, it's another very interesting tech card available to the Warrior, and that's Shadow Hunter Vol'jin that can be played at any point in the game. Glory keeping Troublemaker in the starting hand, I believe, I think perfectly exemplifies the power of this card, because at first glance, you're definitely thinking, oh great, I can snipe an Il'gynoth from my opponent's hand. But then you realize you could just cheat out your Troublemaker or Rattlegore from your starting hand, which is a huge difference maker in being able to just go for an aggressive tempo game plan. That Vol'jin, I think, is a real cornerstone of the matchup.
Definitely a key insight. This is not the Control Warrior of old that just wants to armor up and tank up every single turn. It has its own tempo win condition towards the late game, at least. I guess we shouldn't call it tempo, but there's definitely strong board presence to be had with the Troublemakers and Rattlegores, and those are exactly the shape of minion that Demon Hunter struggles to remove. And so it has to be a turbo start for blitzchung, maximum card draw, but we're not seeing that. He does have Il'gynoth in the opening hand as well. At least it's not trapping a skull, but he knows that at some point he will be able to have the combo relatively early. It's not one of those games where you're hunting for Il'gynoth at the very bottom of the deck.
Yeah, it's always this. If you want to be extremely positive here, you could be like, oh, well, he has a bunch of the combo in hand, even though this is like the worst possible starting hand that you can get with no card draw, skull thoroughly locked in the center of the hand. This is never getting into the outcast position now. And so he's just going to have to make do with playing it as 6-mana draw 3.
And that's a very big deal because we do know that although the Control Warrior has this kind of alternate win condition of going for Rattlegore and Troublemaker, they also just have their regular win condition of armoring up out of the range of Demon Hunter, which is not always doable. But if Demon Hunter isn't actually able to get any discounts on the skull, then the breakpoints of how much the combo can actually do drastically change.
Of course, here, looking at Glory's hand, we're thinking that even if Vol'jin is found, it's, I mean, it's just too late already at this point. Too many other minions in hand. We're too close to turn 8 already. That game plan of cheating out a big minion at the start is out of the game plan here. But for blitzchung now, he is presented with a couple of interesting choices. Skull is like the best option here, but he just has too many cards in hand, even if he coins it out, right?
Right, he will overdraw one and then still have to play one of the immediately discounted cards to not overdraw another. You know, it might be worth it though because he has the one card that you never want to burn already in hand in the Il'gynoth, but he is a Glide gamer.
No way. No way.
He is net losing so many cards by doing this, but he's saying, give me a reroll. I want discounts on my skull. I don't want Il'gynoth in this opening hand. Or he's not going Glide? I'm confused.
Yeah, okay. I think he was going to Chaos Strike there, but yeah, that means that you don't get to do it to your opponent as well, which I think is definitely worth it here.
Yeah.
To try and delete some of their better cards.
Oh my goodness, what is this game, Derek? It's already so weird. blitzchung is deliberately delaying his combo for the ability to get discounts on the combo.
Look at this though, Gia. All of a sudden... The Barov in hand is obviously very, very annoying here because it can get in the way. But there's just a 50-50 for Rattlegore here now.
There is. And also look at blitzchung's reaction to the skull one card right before he wanted it off of the Thalnos. Yikes.
It's okay, right? You can go Orc Merchant's Spectral Sight and Fellscream Blast probably on this turn as well.
Yeah, might as well play with the Moarg as well in order to be able to get more damage from the potential Fellscream. Ay. blitzchung doing everything he can to get Skull in outcast position, even as far as a Glide that loses him cards. And now we could see Glory go for a Tempo Barov in order to be able to set up for the Vol'jin next turn. At that point, though, Rattlegore, you only wait one more turn to get it down naturally, though.
Yeah, and the problem is that your board is then very, very killable at that point. It's, you know, one Chaos Strike, Immolation, or whatever, and your game plan with Rattlegore disappears anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and he just has a curve now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
No longer the Vol'jin game plan. This is just Troublemaker until Rattlegore, and that is still very powerful, tough for blitzchung to deal with. He needs the miracles off of the skull.
Yeah, I mean, there is a Vol'jin game plan. It's just Vol'jin pointed at blitzchung rather than pointed at himself here to try and go for the miracle snipe of Il'gynoth, of course.
blitzchung gets pretty good discounts, but the problem is he doesn't have Il'gynoth anymore, and he only has Chaos Strike to draw at the moment. And he is just kind of dying to this Troublemaker, and even the Outrider's axe is pretty threatening at this moment.
Yeah, he can go Arcanist, Moarg, Throwglaive, which then instantly kills off the... well, clears the board, right? If you target the Troublemaker first and then the 3/3s, which is pretty strong for sure.
It is. Having to use the zero-cost Arcanist is painful, though.
Yeah. I think it's just necessary, though.
I bet
Can't afford to use a second Fell Scream Blast. This is not one of those matchups where you can just use the biggest combo pieces and still have enough damage to get there. Glory has armor. And Glory has more card draw again.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly enough now, there actually is a reason to go Barov and then play your Vol'jin that way now, because you get to get the Rattlegore down, of course, but then you actually deal with the Moarg as well, because you can play Shield Slam. Which is relevant. You know, you don't just want to leave Moarg sitting on the board.
Yeah, I think Glory could have optimized that a little bit better there. I mean, now that he drew into the Scorpid, it wasn't guaranteed to pull out the Rattlegore. Maybe there was some order to be had there, or maybe he's just saying he wants to save Vol'jin to potentially pull out Il'gynoth. But killing Moarg feels like a pretty high priority, because sometimes if blitzchung had hit the absolute nuts there, then Glory could have just been dead on the spot by leaving a Moarg already preemptively developed.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of make the read that if they had Il'gynoth, you were kind of dead anyway, so I definitely don't hate this line from Glory. Or I should say, I don't even dislike this line necessarily. It's more just the thought process I was going through there. Maybe it's worth it to get rid of it. But again, the potential to snipe off the Il'gynoth is worth an awful lot in the matchup.
Well, it doesn't change the fact that blitzchung is on his last legs here. Only one more hit from the Rattlegore. If he draws into Il'gynoth right now, that's like 24 and still short, right?
Yes, yeah, it would have been just short with 24.
And the only way he survives this turn is by going for a big I-beam, which by that point you're kind of losing anyway because he gives up far too many combo pieces. I guess you could go one Moarg, one I-beam.
I think that's probably where you're at, and then hope to draw Skull and get some miracle to try and survive that way. Maybe you go for the Org Merchant as well, just to... but it's another useful combo piece just for a little bit of extra healing.
I don't think he hits the breakpoints anymore, so it's like one Moarg, I-beam the Scorpid. He is alive at 2. Not sure why you wouldn't just I-beam the Scorpid at this point. Maybe to have more minions on Glory's side of the board?
I don't really see that being a thing. Either way, we're looking for very small amounts of damage needed, and Fiery War Axe will be able to do it. Glory getting the win with the Control Warrior against Demon Hunter. It really shows the weakness of Demon Hunter at dealing with these single big minions. Troublemaker, an efficient answer was found, but he had to use many valuable combo tools alongside it. And then the Rattlegore, just the nail in the coffin for Glory to get the win there. And it's huge, absolutely massive to get the win against Demon Hunter, because that is the weakness of their lineup. If they're banning away the Priest, then Demon Hunter is what they fear, and Glory has overcome his greatest weakness.
Indeed. To be fair, this was a very weird pan out of the matchup where blitzchung had the Il'gynoth and Skull in the most awkward possible positions, that he went for a glide kind of Hail Mary, and that reset his card draw, and that was obviously a net negative for blitzchung, not only losing more cards off of the very first effect of the glide, but Glory being able to draw more with the Outrider's Axe, and then blitzchung only getting 3 cards off of Skull and not much more after that, meant that Glory not only had the strong minion presence, but blitzchung had very, very slim chances of being able to pull together the OTK. I'd love to see that matchup in action a few more times, and maybe we will later today, because again, Glory, Alutamu, and Possessi all have the same lineup. But it comes down now to the dynamic duo. It is blitzchung on his token Druid. Who wins, the world champion or the forest champion?
He can't lose, right, on this token Druid. Yes, we saw him lose yesterday, I think, technically, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure that wasn't just a hallucination at this point, because he just cannot lose on this deck. Against the Control Warrior, though, Gia, it's one of those weird matchups where, again, I haven't seen all too much of it. Control Warrior, at least this build, is obviously a very new iteration, and your first instinct is, of course, to say Warrior should demolish this Druid. You have plenty of removal options, plenty of armor gain. You have pressure in the late game, so they can't just do nothing forever and hope to win that way. But are there any kind of tools that the Token Druid can use to flip this matchup back in their favor? Or is it even as unfavored as I'm laying out in the first place?
I do think it's unfavored overall, but they do have one strong tool to fight back, and that is the rightmost key card here, Soul of the Forest. That is the kicker against Warrior, because even if they have Brawl, if you stick the Soul of the Forest on your Glowfly board, they are very unlikely to be able to then Bladestorm that board after or Rancor it. There's just not enough mana by that point in the game. And if you can stick that wide board, all it takes is one Arbor up or a Solar Power Arbor up to be able to then deal the lethal. The matchup happens in these huge waves and huge destructions from the Warrior side onto the Druid's board, but it's not unwinnable for the Druid. I think it's all about the right timing for blitzchung. He can also try and finagle boards where even if he's left with only 3 to 4 minions, you can invest a Pride's Fury on that and try to force a Brawl from the Warrior. And it's honestly kind of reminiscent of older Token Druid versus Control Warrior matchups.
It is. Yeah. Back then it was the Warpath that really made it like an unlosable matchup for the Warrior, because that was the card that could get through the Soul of the Forest as well. But now, of course, it's a little bit different when you have Blade Fury as well. But now for blitzchung, like you were squeeing about, this is the dream hand right now.
And he even discovers another Glowfly off of the nature studies. Not only does he discount the fungal into the perfect curve, this is blitzchung at his finest. Glory just doesn't have enough to deal with all of this at the moment. Yes, he has one Rancor, but he's not going to be able to draw with the Outrider's axe until the turn he wants to play Rancor. And it's already looking like the Lorax has risen again.
The Lorax 2 electric boogaloo, I guess. Yeah, I mean, just to be in blitzchung's head right now, the music blaring. Are you ready? Jamming out Glowfly on 3. Absolutely disgusting. And while there's the answer, of course, for Glory right now, he's got a lot more to try and get through after this.
Absolutely. And he has the Rancor, right? Because, okay, I was going to say no Brawl in hand. There was a world where you can try and get greedy with the Outrider, so you get the draw going. Draw is absolutely paramount for Warrior here, but Glory just says, I don't want to take the damage. I am not going to expect that blitzchung has Innervate into second Glowfly. I don't know if that's something reasonable, but because have you seen how blitzchung has drawn on this deck? But it's going to work out for Glory either way here.
And he's spending his mana decently proactively. Glory, I mean, blitzchung of course is, and just drawing cards on this turn. But Glory can go for the Outrider's Axe here. That's a good card to get down proactively. And if he can bridge the gap through to Troublemaker, once that sticks, things start looking a lot better for him. So it's just about surviving, fending off the hordes at the gates until you can get to turn 8, and Glory can maybe turn this around. And a second Brawl definitely helps that.
Oh my goodness. Trying to get in blitzchung's mindset for as to why he didn't just kill off the 1/1 there, but he's probably just saying if Glory is going to go for Bladestorm / Brawl, he has to make the trade anyway. And so blitzchung's just pushing that extra 1 damage to the face. And thankfully, it is not the armor bender that survives there. Not the same as an armor smith, it turns out.
Well, actually, that was something that was pretty cool. Glory actually sacrificed it in first deliberately so that it was a treant that survived, so that he could draw an extra card. I think that was actually just a small but very clever optimization to try and find him that extra removal.
Yeah, good catch. For blitzchung here, he can go for Nature into Thorn Growth into Pride's Fury. That's pretty powerful. All he's trying to do is stick a board for Arbor up, but we can see the second Brawl in hand and no Soul of the Forest for blitzchung. Looks like he's going for Pride's Fury immediately as well. Maybe plays a bit better around Bladestorm.
Yeah, it also just means that he saves the second Nature Studies for the Gibbling, right? So he's giving himself a second wave of threat. That is an interesting top deck for sure. It probably doesn't come down now because you're just looking more heavily at the Brawl. But if you have a read on second Gibbling, of course, that's a huge snipe at any point in the game.
Alternatively, if it's not in hand, it is just like a free minion remove from blitzchung.
Sure, yeah. It's just deleting a card.
This feels like it's worth a shield slam. Because Glory really wants a Troublemaker next turn, I have to expect, so. Oh,
in
for more
swing.
card draw as well. Okay.
Wow.
Just saying here that if blitzchung is going to go for another board refill, it's not going to be of the size that just World
Right.
can deal with. Oh, this draw is huge! This turn he can fit in Arbor up now with a lot of gibberlings.
Yeah, the Arbor,
Oh
the power
my
of the
goodness.
wild, everything coming into play here. You're looking for Solar as like the best possible card. Guidance could still find it.
And it just gives him refill if he miss. This is not. Oh, is it? Is it?
Just take both, right? Like, you're overloaded next turn, but that just doesn't... I guess going to 6 next turn? Yeah, I mean, you're going to 6 or 5.
Five?
The breakpoint just doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's going to 5 mana, I believe, which is still playable for Arbor up, so he does
exactly.
just take both. And that means that we've seen both brawls now. Glory, if he doesn't deal with this, not only is he just kind of dead on board, he's super dead once turn 10 rolls around. Oh my goodness.
So he's drawing. Barov is almost an insta-win because he can just shield slam it straight away.
Right.
He gets another Troublemaker. That's going to clear off, hopefully, 2 minions here.
Oh my god, what is that? The worst possible. Hello. And blitzchung had attack at that point, so... Wait, why did the 3/3 die? When it hit his face?
Well, no, the one died that went into the 5-1. The other one...
Oh, sorry. I had a visual bug on that, or in my brain, I suppose.
Bug, yeah.
Never mind. The real story here is that blitzchung found the soul of the forest right off the top as well.
Yeah, that wasn't lethal, right?
No, it would have been plus 12. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
that is
Rancor.
a big draw. The Whirlwind having been used earlier instead of the Shield Slam, though, you don't expect this exact breakpoint, but that one's going to hurt a lot now.
He can clear 3 of the first halves and then leave the 5/1 up as another minion that can die to Rancor. So,
Oh!
this Whirlwind! That's so clutch!
That's so huge. Oh my goodness. Do you go Kargath first? No, you just do it afterwards, right? Into a 2/2 probably.
Kargath
Or I
is
guess
the
you-
5/3, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, blitzchung hates to see it. It was the perfect top deck for Glory into the Rancor. Troublemaker survives. Another chance at taking the right trades here. And even if it misses, blitzchung is not getting any chance at this point.
Yeah, I think this is just slipping away from him. The Soul of the Forest, or Survival of the Fittest, sorry, does absolutely nothing wrong. S-O the F. And, I mean, here it is. It turns out the one thing strong enough to beat the perfect Druid draw from blitzchung is the world champion Glory. I mean, come on, really?
Wait, I mean, if the second Troublemaker misses,
Okay.
maybe?
No, you're right. Let's give it its due diligence.
I mean, Glory still has this shield slam. Okay, with the minefield, there's probably a full clear available here as well now.
There is a guaranteed full clear.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go Outrider's Axe, you could go Shadowhunter Vulcan. I mean, honestly, Troublemaker may still just be the best play, though.
Is it the one way he loses though? If they both go face, then he still shield slams a 4/3, and then survival is 16 damage. He's still alive technically. But looks like Glory is gonna take 0 risks. In terms of what blitzchung could have discovered that's scary here. Oh yeah, the Vulcan also just guaranteed remove something, right? Because he's seen both of the gibberlings. It is coming in. Not clutch here because Glory already kind of won, but getting its time in the sun. Well, it can be a 6/6 treant. Let's go.
Damn, we just have to pass the turn here to make that happen. Yeah, blitzchung holding out for the Fungal Fortunes just to try and refill this board. Obviously, if there's no more removal and he can get one more giant Glowfly Swarm, it is maybe possible. That Troublemaker, though, is the death knell for him in this game. There's no way back from that.
It's happened. Blitzchung has lost 2 games on Token Druid. That first one didn't even matter because he still ended up winning the series. So we can say the lineup with Token Druid won. But this time, Derek, it is the very last deck for Blitzchung, and he has no outs whatsoever. Glory with the peace sign and the thumbs up, giving Alutamu a run for his money. Well deserved from our world champion here. You'd love to see the optimizations. Everything from trading in the 1-1 before the brawl in order to get an additional draw from the Outrider's Axe, and the way that he sequenced the Whirlwind plus Kargath Rancor turn. Just so clean.
Yeah, the one thing you could argue on was this use of Whirlwind over the Shield Slam very liberally, just to kill off an extra card. Again, it had many benefits. You draw a card. The kind of board you're likely to see going into turn 7 is Solar Arbor, against which Shield Slam is kind of a better card anyway. So I really don't think it was wrong. It's just like the one potential talking point for Glory in that game. But the main thing I want to touch on really is I think just how genius this deck building is on the Warrior. It covers so many bases. Having both the